Whoop. Some people say you're not a real outdoorsman unless you can start a fire with one of these. This is called a ferro rod or a Firesteel. And while I started this fire with this, I'm taking the firm stance that this is overrated and I'm still going to pack a lighter. Now, before we get into why I think this is overrated, let's gather some materials and teach you what is a good source of dry wood in the snowy or wet forest. Of course, any bushcraft survival requires a good bushcraft knife, something that is going to be sturdy and durable, something you can use as a hatchet or as a baton, something you can stab into, twist, and curve. A good quality knife is necessary. Your life is going to get a lot easier if you do have access to some form of hacksaw, ideally a foldable one for storage, so that you can cut branches to your desired size and not just have to rely on brute force breaking dead wood. Now, if you're in the northern hemisphere, there's a good chance you're going to be somewhere near my favorite tree, the birch tree. And you're going to find birch bark. Birch bark is incredibly flammable. It grows in layers, and you can peel it, strip it back to get into the drier inner layers, this pink bark. This stuff is extremely flammable. All of this flame is coming off of that birch bark. Now, it's a short-lasting, high-intensity fire. And so this is very good for your initial burn, trying to get your smaller branches and smaller twigs to catch. But this is a game changer. I use this in my pre-fire Tinder phase. And if I'm just feeling cold and I want a quick burst of heat from my hands, birch bark, that is my go-to. Next, we're going to be gathering small branches, and you can never have too many. But what kind of branches? You want dry, dead branches. That little bit of moss growth isn't necessarily the best. That means that there is enough moisture on this wood for that moss to grow. However, these branches came from a pine tree, which is a softwood, so it's going to burn pretty quick. And I know it's dead because as a pine tree grows, the lower branches die off. We want to start with branches smaller than the diameter of your finger so that they'll actually catch. If they're too thick, they're going to resist the fire. You'll notice behind me, I did something a little creative. I took a dead log that was rotten from the inside out. This would have been a poplar tree. The inside rotted first. And I made myself a little Swedish fire log. I put a breather hole down here, and the center was already hollow. So I just carved out a notch like so. This log can also be used to smoke your food for preservation. If you put it on while it's still wet, it is going to be pumping out a lot of smoke. This style of setup also gives you a very concentrated flame right at the top here that's going to pump out a lot of heat. This is going to be great if you had a kettle and you needed to boil some water. You can hang it above. It keeps the rest of the pot from getting very hot from the surrounding fire, and it concentrates your heat to a single point. Each one of these Swedish logs is going to get you 1 to 2 hours of sustained fire, and that is a good thing. Now, I gathered this piece off of this dead log. You can see the hollow center right there. And so I can make several of these. Now, because I'm building in the snow, I decided to build up a bit of a base. I kicked the snow around, built a base, put my tinder inside the base, and put my log on top. You'll notice my log is leaning a little bit away from me. We can straighten that out if and when it decides it wants to fall. First, be careful where you touch. Another valuable resource that we use to start this fire is usnia.
Usnea is a very dry type of moss, also known as old man's beard, because it hangs down. If you gather this up off of several branches and roll it into a ball, you get this. This little ball of Usnea has a lot of airflow, and it's great for your tinder when you're using your ferro rod to catch a spark.
When this one burns down, I'll just flip it on its side and it is already dried out charcoal or fire starter ready to go. So when I put the next one on top, we can contain that fire and keep this going.
We also took advantage of the highly flammable nature of pine needles, not the green ones, the brown ones. When a pine needle dies, when the tree decides that branch either gets broken or the tree dies, the needles are the first to lose their moisture. They become highly flammable.
If you're trying to get a smoke signal going for help, you're going to want to use the green ones because they put off a lot of smoke. A valuable technique for getting a fire going is called batoning or battening. It's basically taking a branch and using your knife and a branch to beat the wood and split it open. The driest wood is actually in the center of a piece of wood. The outer layers are wetter, the inside is drier, and so you want to break that open to get to the drier wood. On a piece of wood, the outside holds the moisture in the bark. So we want to carve that away and expose the drier wood underneath. You still want to save these shavings because they're going to be valuable to keep the fire going. Creating a feather stick is the art of taking a piece of wood. In an ideal situation, this would look like this. But basically what you're doing is creating a feather stick. You would make a whole bunch of these curly shavings, and then that is going to create more surface area for your fire to start using dry wood. But as you can tell, I'm not that good at it. Now let's talk why this is a valuable tool. A Firesteel works when it's wet. It's windproof. Have you ever tried to light a lighter and you have to hold your hand there and the slightest wind will blow it out? Not with this bad boy. The wind actually helps because once you get your spark, the wind is going to help put air in and cause your fire to start. There's no fuel to run out and you get hundreds of strikes. I did the math. With a standard lighter, you're going to get this many strikes before you run out of fuel. With one of these, you're going to get this many strikes before you run out of fuel. And depending how good you are with either a lighter or a Firesteel, this is going to come out on top. With a lighter, if it gets crushed, you're going to lose the fluid and you're going to run out. Whereas this, even if it breaks, which it is breakable, you can put her back in. That being said, it is still breakable. And while this is an extremely valuable tool, let me show you just how many strikes it took to get this fire going. And of course, there is a skill barrier and a tool barrier. A lot of people who are using these for survival are going to use ones that are much longer, so you're going to get much more access to spark and flame. What's actually happening is as you're sparking it, you're shooting off little pieces of metal that are going to stay lit for half a second, but they burn extremely hot. And that half a second is crucial to get that spark onto some dry tinder. Once you get that flame going, it's just a matter of nurturing it into a nice fire. But trust me, it's not that easy sometimes. Starting a fire with this definitely takes skill and practice, and while that's not itself a bad thing in a survival situation, I don't know that you have time to practice. Technique matters a lot. What you don't want to be doing is trying to throw You don't want to throw your piece of Firesteel. What I was going to say is you don't want to be throwing the spark forward with this because you're going to be banging into your tinder. You're going to want to be keeping that spark so close to the material that you don't want to throw the material away. What I like to do with this is place it down by the base, put my thumb on it, and apply force in a flicking motion. Or hold firm and pull away. And while starting the fire with this was romantic and it made you feel like a baddie, it's not exactly the most efficient thing. You saw how long that took, especially when compared to a $1 lighter where you can just one spark, one flame, and voila. A lighter doesn't require practice and skill. Lighters are cheap and they work. And while I would pack a ferro rod or Firesteel in my survival kit, I would highly recommend packing a lighter as well. Thanks for watching today's episode of Forest Thoughts, all about the Firesteel. And I hope you learned something in this video. Now, it's snowing beautifully out. I'm going to play with my kids out in the snow and I'm going to enjoy this fire. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Forest Thoughts. I'm your host, Justin, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Thanks, and have a happy new year. This is our new series, Forest Thoughts. It's all about survival and bushcraft techniques and strategies and some hot takes. Guys, I encourage you to go check out episode 1 about snares and episode 2 about bow hunting. Like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I appreciate you guys, and thanks for watching. And don't forget, when you're done, enlist some help and make sure you adequately put the fire out. You do not want to start a forest fire, guys.